Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question asks if I can analyze the mental health and personality factors that may be at work in the Cheshire Murders. Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. So first I'll cover the background, then I'll move to the timeline of the crimes, then I'll talk about the mental health and personality factors. So starting with the background. There were two criminals in this case, Stephen Hayes and Joshua Komisarjevsky. I'll cover Hayes first and then move to Komisarjevsky. Hayes was born in Homestead, Florida on May 30, 1963. He was arrested about 30 times before the Cheshire Murders. A number of his crimes involved burglary of a car. In Connecticut, entering a vehicle illegally is burglary. In most places, the term burglary is reserved for making illegal entry into a structure. In 2006, he was paroled and sent to a halfway house. This is where he met Joshua Komisarjevsky. Now, Komisarjevsky was born on August 10, 1980. His mother was 16 years old when she became pregnant with him. He would be adopted by Benedict Komisarjevsky. He was arrested for committing an assault of a sexual nature against his sister in the early 1990s. In this video, when I use the word assault, that is the type of assault to which I am referring. After this, he started committing a number of burglaries of occupied structures. He was arrested in 2002 and charged in connection with 18 burglaries. In December of 2002, he would be sent to prison with a 9-year sentence after being convicted of 12 counts of burglary. He was released in 2007. He was released early because the transcript of his sentencing proceeding was never sent to the parole board, so they didn't really have all the information available. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On July 22, 2007, this was a Sunday, Komisarjevsky was at a grocery store in Cheshire, Connecticut, when he saw Jennifer Hawk Pettit and her daughter, Michaela. He decided to follow them home. The Pettit family comprised 4 people: Dr. Pettit, a 50-year-old endocrinologist, Jennifer Hawk Pettit, a 48-year-old nurse, Haley Pettit, a 17-year-old who just graduated from high school, and Michaela Pettit, 11 years old. Again, at that grocery store, we see Jennifer and Michaela. At some point, Komisarjevsky and Hayes have a conversation and plan a home invasion of the Pettit residence that was to occur on July 23. Hayes claimed later that the pair only planned on robbing the Pettit house. They were going to tie up the occupants, steal what they wanted, and leave. I'll talk more about this later. In the early morning of July 23, the pair entered the Pettit house through an unlocked basement door. They grabbed a baseball bat that was on the basement stairs and walked to the sunroom, where they found Dr. Pettit, who was asleep on the couch. They beat him with the baseball bat and then tied him up. They went upstairs and tied up Jennifer, Michaela, and Haley. Each of them were restrained to their beds in their respective rooms, and pillowcases were put over their heads. After collecting cash and other valuables, they moved Dr. Pettit to the basement and tied him to a support pole. Hayes left the residence with gas cans that he took from the home and went to a nearby gas station where he purchased $10 worth of gasoline. When Hayes returned, he drove Jennifer Hawk Pettit to her bank. Not long after 9 a.m., he sent her into the bank to withdraw $15,000. Hawk Pettit told the bank teller that she and her family were being held hostage in their home. She also said that she believed the criminals only wanted money as they were being nice. The bank manager called the police, and evidently the police were at the house within a few minutes. Instead of entering the house, they set up a perimeter. When Hayes and Hawk Pettit were at the bank, Komisarjevsky assaulted Michaela. When Hayes returned, he assaulted Hawk Pettit. After hearing the assault of his wife, Dr. Pettit managed to escape the basement into his backyard. Komisarjevsky realized this and informed Hayes, at which time Hayes strangled Hawk Pettit. Both Hayes and Komisarjevsky doused all 3 victims with gasoline and set them on fire. Michaela and Haley would die of smoke inhalation. Hayes and Komisarjevsky stole the Pettit's vehicle, but only made it about a block before colliding with a police vehicle. They were both placed under arrest and charged with a number of crimes. The attorneys for the pair offered to have their clients plead guilty in exchange for life in prison without the possibility of parole. The state of Connecticut rejected the offer and decided to pursue the death penalty for both defendants. In Connecticut, a trial is required to execute a prisoner. After 2 long and costly trials, juries found them guilty and sentenced them to death. Their sentences were amended to life in prison after the state of Connecticut abolished the death penalty in 2015. Now moving to the mental health and personality factors. I'm not aware of any official mental health diagnosis being given to either of the murderers in this case. Hayes was maltreated from a young age. He was described as manipulative, callous, cold, sadistic, psychopathic, and calculating. In prison, he was depressed and suicidal. His behavior may align with Factor 1 psychopathy as far as the manipulative tendencies and being cold, and Factor 2 psychopathy due to the criminality and impulsiveness. Now moving to Komisarjevsky. Evidently, he was also maltreated when he was young. He was adopted. He was described as polite, romantic, and a career criminal. After he would break into houses where people were sleeping and steal whatever he wanted, he would go into each of the rooms and listen to the people breathe. He liked the feeling of violating their sense of security. He was artistically talented, highly intelligent, and well-spoken. He had several concussions when he was young, and he also suffered from anxiety attacks. At the time he was arrested, he had a girlfriend who some thought looked younger than her stated age. Therefore, some believed that Komisarjevsky had an interest in children. When this girlfriend described the relationship in the HBO documentary about these murders, she said that he was a hopeless romantic that liked to tie her up during sex. This may offer some insight into the nature of a sexual domination killer. In this case, he had an outlet for his drive, yet he still committed the assault. This seems consistent with the theory that these types of killers can never really find a legal or appropriate outlet for their desires. Their motivation to assault and kill cannot be satisfied in any other way. Just as we saw with Hayes, Komisarjevsky's behavior may align with psychopathy. His personality seems a little bit different than Hayes. Komisarjevsky appears to be higher in openness to experience. He seems to be more conscientious, but still at a low level overall. We see a higher level of extroversion, although both are sensation-seeking and assertive. He's lower in agreeableness, although they're both at a low level, and both of their levels of neuroticism are high, like anger, depression, and anxiety, but they're not self-conscious. This is a common facet arrangement for individuals who may be psychopathic. If they had not been arrested, it seems likely that both would have reoffended. Now, moving to their plan about robbing the family and leaving, like I talked about before. Was this actually the plan? Were they just going to take what they wanted and leave? I think that this was never the plan. They could have burglarized this house when the family was not there. Even in the summer, when the children were home from school, I'm sure the family went out all together at certain points during the week, leaving the house empty. So they had an option here to just steal and not come in contact with any of the family members. Komisarjevsky was not really interested in that particular house. He was interested in Michaela Pettit. Similarly, I think it makes sense to believe that Hayes was interested in assault as well, considering that's what he actually did. If their intent was assault and robbery, did they also plan on committing the murders? I think at first they were not planning on committing homicides. They didn't kill Dr. Pettit, and they put pillowcases over the heads of their other victims. At some point, though, they changed their minds, as indicated by Hayes' purchase of gasoline. I don't buy this idea that they were going to leave with the family and burn the house down. I think their intent was to burn the house down and kill the occupants, which of course is what they did. So what lessons can be learned from this case? Well, I have 3 takeaways here. The first one, do not underestimate how manipulative criminals can be. Hawk Pettit thought the criminals were being nice. She believed they only wanted money. She should have stayed in that bank. She should not have believed them. But the pair was convincing, and they were able to successfully manipulate her. It is better to follow the behavior. Behavior indicates what somebody's going to do better than words in most situations. Second, the Cheshire Police did not do a good job in this case. The mayor said that they did a great job and the outcome could have been worse. Well, 3 of the 4 people died, and the one who didn't saved himself. I question if the mayor really understands the definition of the word great as used in great job. Technically, yes, the outcome could have been worse. That's the case for almost every situation. But that statement does not seem to capture the devastating nature of this particular crime. This is like saying that the sinking of the Titanic could have been worse because at least it produced a popular movie. The police claim they followed procedure. Was their procedure manual titled The David Koresh Guide to Dealing with Hostage Situations? They really need to make sure to check the author when they buy a book. The police need to take ownership of their terrible performance. They are still hiding information about their handling of this case. If they could have only protected the Pettit family, as well as they are now trying to protect themselves from responsibility, maybe they could have achieved a positive outcome. The third lesson learned is around the death penalty. This is a controversial issue, of course. Support for the death penalty is at a 45-year low in the United States. In the end, it is more expensive than life without the possibility of parole. I wonder if this money could be used to fund programs to prevent murder, or perhaps to investigate other murders and bring people to justice. It seems like a waste of resources to spend millions of dollars to execute somebody who is already going to spend their life in prison. Another question on the same topic would be, what is really a worse punishment? Is it worse to be executed or to spend one's life in a prison? Now, I've heard the argument that the death penalty just feels right in certain cases. It feels just. Well, not every feeling is positive or helpful, even if the feeling is justified. The desire for revenge is destructive, even when it's fully warranted. I've also heard that the death penalty brings peace to a victim's family. In reality, we know from scientific research that it does not. Sadly, crimes like murder can never be set right. There is no justice, and there is no restoration. There are only degrees of suffering. Those are my thoughts on the Cheshire Murders. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching.